Glenn Kirschner here. Please enjoy this video on the Political Voices Network.
And if I had to bet my buck, I'm not a gambling man or a high roller, $1 is my betting limit. I'm putting the full buck on convictions of Donald Trump.
That's a legal term.
Yeah,
we. Okay. And they always say you can't infer guilt from someone not testifying, but I bet they do, because they know he's running his mouth about that he's going to testify. You said after promising he testify at trial, Trump punked out. Now let's talk about the evidentiary standard beyond a reasonable doubt, right? Because #justice matters.
No.
Yeah, and Donald Trump was always trying this case in the court of public opinion. And what did he do? He incessantly promised the American people he was going to testify, he was going to take the stand, and he was going to rock the mic. And at the last minute, he punked out. Importantly, you have a Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination, so nobody can compel you to testify. But in the court of public opinion, where Donald Trump tries his cases, everyone should know that Donald Trump had nothing to offer that would help prove he didn't commit these crimes, so he didn't take the stand.
Yeah.
The jury can't infer guilt, but the American people sure can.
Yep. I mean, you said Michael Cohen's testimony concludes Trump's attorney scores 2 points, prosecutors score 98. Here's why some of the defense's tactical choices will come back to haunt them. I got to say, this Bob Costello thing, what an implosion, right? Adam Classfield said, email from Costello to his partner on June 22nd, subject line Michael Cohen. Cohen has to know this, yet he continues to slow play us, us and the president. Is he totally nuts? What should I say to this a-hole? He's playing with the most powerful man on the planet. And you said this is incredibly damning evidence, reinforcing Costello's ultimate goal was trying to quote unquote represent Michael Cohen. Costello complains that Cohen is being an a-hole because he's playing us and the president. So who do you think Costello was looking out for? Which is exactly why I love that he was too skeevy for Michael Cohen.
Yeah.
And as Nicole Wallace said, this is the last guy that comes to see you before you get whacked, right? Sleep well tonight, Michael, right?
These emails paint the picture that Costello and, by extension, Giuliani and Trump were trying to catch and kill Michael Cohen's testimony to make sure it did not damage Donald Trump. I mean, I was pretty appalled. I guess I still have the capacity to be surprised. I was pretty appalled that Costello, an alleged lawyer who wanted desperately to represent Cohen. Now, let me tell you, that's not usually the way it works. Usually the client goes about looking for an attorney. Here we have an attorney desperately trying to represent the client and calling his prospective client an a-hole. That's not exactly zealously representing the client that you hope to land. This whole thing is mob stuff.
Yeah.
It's the rule of law, and the ethical responsibilities between an attorney and a client stood on its head. And I'm so glad that Donald Trump made his defense attorneys put Costello on the stand, because it further reinforces exactly what Donald Trump was trying to do, trying to corruptly catch and kill damaging information, whether from Stormy Daniels, what was the Karen McDougal, or his own former lawyer, Michael Cohen. It is all of the same, kind and ilk.
I know. He did everything. The whole sleep well. We have friends in high places. He said everything but, or you'll sleep with the fishes. Like, it was the mobbiest letter I ever read. Okay. So James Comey says he thinks also there will be a conviction. Is it wrong that I just always think STFU whenever he talks? But okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Now a warning about the dangers of Donald Trump. He said, I think there's an overwhelming chance of a conviction, significant but much smaller chance of a hung jury, zero chance of an acquittal. He said they built a building out of a series of bricks that really couldn't be crossed because there were documents, there were texts, there were the words of the defendant before they went to their cooperator at the end. I bet they even debated whether they needed to call Cohen as a cooperator, and that circumstantial case, at least in my experience, having tried a lot of cases, is very, very powerful. I mean, that being said, what everyone always says, you never know what a jury's going to do. Is there one person on there that's going to cause a hung jury?
Yeah.
I mean,
there can always be one person. But, I think the New York prosecutors and Judge Juan Merchan were probably very careful during jury selection to try to sniff out any moles that were looking to get on the jury nefariously. And in, this day and age when everybody's life seems to be lived online, at least in part, you can bet there were teams of people for both the prosecution and the defense researching every potential juror to make sure if they were saying in court, I can be fair and impartial, but they were saying online, F one side or F the other or whatever, well, then those people would have been sniffed out and excused as jurors. So I am feeling pretty comfortable with the jury that was impaneled in New York.
Okay. All right, let's talk Supreme Court. You tweeted, the Supreme Court, as led by insurrection advocates Alito and Thomas, has caught and killed Trump's prosecution for trying to overturn the 2020 election. The impartiality of Thomas and Alito might be reasonably be questioned, so the federal law requires their recusal, period, full stop. A lot of other people are talking about this, Glenn. Our friend Adam Schiff said Alito must recuse himself. Dick Durbin pointed out the second flag revelation is further proof of apparent ethical misconduct by a sitting justice. It adds to the court's ongoing ethical crisis. This incident is yet another example of an apparent ethical misconduct by a sitting justice. It adds to the court's blah, blah, blah. Who said Justice Alito must recuse himself immediately from cases related to the 2020 election and January 6th insurrection. Blumenthal said Supreme Court justices are supposed to be above reproach and above politics. I'm really, really sad and shocked to say Alito is rapidly showing himself unfit to serve. So I think you have the same interpretation that Lawrence Tribe does, is that it's against the law. Do something about it. At least hold hearings, right? I know we don't have the votes to impeach, but what's your prescription?
So the federal law says justices, not just federal judges, but Supreme Court justices shall qualify themselves from a case if their impartiality might reasonably be questioned. That's the federal law.
Yeah.
And as of this moment, both Alito and Thomas are violating the federal law. That's why we should open an impeachment inquiry. That's why the Department of Justice should be looking into whether, these violations of federal law need to be addressed. We can't just sit back and say, boy, I hope something is done. We have the institutions of government.
Yeah.
We have two other branches of government that are equipped to deal with these violations of law, Steph. So enough with the talk. Let's take action if we really care about the quality and the legitimacy of the opinions the Supreme Court is about to hand down.
And Roberts isn't going to do anything. And if he won't subpoena him, have an investigation, shine a light on the corruption of the Supreme Court at least. I mean, this is just...
And Steph, everybody can go to uscourts.gov, uscourts.gov, and file a judicial misconduct complaint form. We've done it for Aileen Cannon. We can do it for the justices. Just do it. That's one action everybody can take. File a judicial complaint form. It's a page and a half long. You have to mail it in, but do it. And the more our voices are heard, the better off we're going to be.
Who's he blamed the second flag on? Anybody? His wife
Not
again?
his
or
second wife,
The
maybe?
dog?
I don't think he's commented on the second flag
No,
yet.
he hasn't.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Doesn't feel like he owes us an explanation. Okay, great.
You are invited to Stephanie Miller's Sexy Liberal Save the World Tour. It's the political comedy event of the year, and it's coming to a city near you. Join Stephanie Miller, the queen of progressive talk radio, along with Hal Sparks, John Fugelsang, and the comedy duo Frangela, mocking all the fascists and trolls for a tour that is hilarious, inspiring, and deeply offensive to just the right people. It's an all-new tour with all-new guests and a side-splitting evening of stand-up. Stephanie Miller's Sexy Liberal Save the World Tour.